the public mind to cause them to interpret what they were seeing in the sky as something alien and probably unfriendly.
Early on, the U.S. military buys into the fervor. In 1947, the Air Force is officially and covertly investigating UFOs through its Project Blue Book. Eventually, the project will go public and then in 1969 be terminated when the Air Force concludes that there is no tangible evidence that UFOs pose a threat to national security.
We've been able to explain them as hoaxes, as erroneously identified friendly aircraft, as meteorological or electronic phenomena. It does not contain any pattern of purpose or of consistency that we can relate with to any conceivable threat to the United States.
But among astronomers, the possibility of communication with other worlds is alive and well, fueled not by UFO mania, but by hard science. Pioneering astronomer Edwin Hubble has proven that there are galaxies beyond the Milky Way, and that the universe is constantly expanding, opening up infinite possibilities for intelligence on other planets. In 1948, Hubble is installed at the world's largest telescope on Mount Palomar in California. Hubble believes, in his words, many of these planets must be suitable for supporting life. New questions are being asked about how we can determine scientifically the existence of intelligent life elsewhere in the galaxy. One of those questions is being raised by what is called the Fermi paradox.
The Fermi paradox was first raised in about 1950 by the Italian physicist Enrico Fermi, and he simply asked the question, where are they? In other words, if there are so many intelligent civilizations out there in outer space, why do we not see them here on the Earth? And if you consider the time scales involved in the universe, you have a universe 12 to 15 billion years old, that they would have populated the galaxy by now. We should have seen them by now.
So perhaps some maverick astronomers begin to wonder, it's not a big eye in the sky that we need, but a big ear. It is called new astronomy, the belief that celestial objects radiate energy in many ways along the electromagnetic spectrum, not just optically. And new astronomers like Frank Drake step forward to study that theory. They are pioneers in what will become known as SETI, the U.S. government's search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
I first became fascinated with discovering life in space when I was very young, perhaps 8 years old, when my parents told me that there were other planets, which was, to me, a bombshell. And it excited me to think that there might be other worlds like the Earth. And I wondered if there were there creatures living on them like us? What were their histories? Surely it would be a great adventure to discover those creatures.
In 1960, with a PhD from Harvard, Drake accepts a staff position at the National Radio Astronomy Observatory in Green Bank, West Virginia.
I am sure we're not alone. Of course, that's a very daring statement. People will say, wow, how can you say that? Well, I can say it because first, there are 400 billion stars in our galaxy. A substantial fraction are like our sun. The circumstances that brought all that about were very normal circumstances. So what happened here must have happened other places. And if even then you're dubious, well, there are another 100 billion galaxies. So there is no doubt there is life elsewhere in the universe, including intelligent life.
Drake sets out to test that theory during his work at Green Bank. He and others begin using the 85-foot radio telescope to listen for signals at 1420 megahertz, what's called a marker frequency or a meeting place of the hydrogen atom. Drake gives his project an unusual name.
It occurred to me that Ozma was a good name because the place we were trying to find was a land far away, very difficult to reach, and populated by strange and exotic beings.
In the spring of 1960, the Ozma receivers are switched on. Amazingly, Drake's team gets immediate results.
It was the first day of Ozma, when we, in fact, having observed for many hours our first target star, Tau Ceti, turned the telescope to Epsilon Eridani, the second target star. Almost immediately we heard something we'd never heard before in years and years of radio astronomy, which was a signal which sounded like choo, choo, And it was the type of signal that some people predicted we'd get from another world. My first thought was, is it this easy? All you do is go to the first star and turn it on. There it is. It was really amazing. We didn't quite know what to do.
The telescope is moved away from the star and then refocused on it, but the signal can't be located again. A similar signal is found several weeks later, then ruled out as radio interference from another transmitter on Earth. But Ozma prompted serious attention, and in 1961 the National Academy of Sciences hosts a conference at Green Bank to assess the possibility of communicating with other worlds. It is then that Frank Drake unveils an equation that will forever put alien hunting into the scientific mainstream.
To this day, it tells us what we need to know if we're to predict the number of civilizations in space.
The equation is a way of determining N, the number of civilizations in our galaxy that have the potential for radio communication. It is a way of quantifying how likely we are to get a message from deep space. And says Drake, the chances, mathematically speaking, are very good. The Drake equation is a bold formula that turns the staid world of astronomy on its head. It will greatly influence the work of a young astronomer, Carl Sagan. But the public is completely unaware of it. They want their alien hunters in shiny silver suits.
Godspeed, John Glenn.
In 1961, John Glenn becomes the first American to orbit the Earth, seeing it from an extraterrestrial point of view. It is now the space age, and for the first time in history, the public sees science catching up with science fiction.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff. Liftoff. 30 minutes after.
The space race is on, and just like our ancient ancestors, the object of our desire is the moon. On July 21st, 1969, we make it.
Go ahead, Mr. President. This is Houston out. Because of what you have done, the heavens have become a part of man's world.
But Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins aren't alone up there. The alien hunters have launched a number of unmanned probes into space. They are sent to take pictures and gather data, but some of them also contain a special message intended for E.T., a message not far removed from those Peruvian drawings created so long ago.
It is now okay to talk about intelligent life elsewhere, whereas a decade or two ago it wasn't okay. It was considered too speculative to be worth any investment of time.
We may never know if Sagan's message has found an intergalactic recipient.